We're here with Chris Rayburn. Chris is the curator of this, is that correct?
Yeah, a volunteer.
Volunteer curator, yeah, absolutely. And Chris, can you share with us what was the foundation, the impetus, the inspiration for you to pursue this? Because it's a pretty...
Well, we've actually, we've wanted to do something with the airport about aviation for a long time, several years.
We being Quad City Arts.
Quad City Arts,
yep.
Thank you.
Cool. Yep.
And there was apparently I talked to Joe Taylor today, and there was a meeting at the Putnam, and somehow the different groups in the community came together and said, hey, look, let's all do something at the same time to promote an event and tourism in our community.
Okay.
And I don't know exactly where it came from, but it brought the Putnam Museum, the air show, and then this gallery here at the airport all together to try and do something about aviation.
Excellent. Yeah.
And it was a really cool way to all start a collaborative process.
Yeah.
And then it kind of grew like a tree. People had a different idea, and a better idea came out here. And so the Putnam was well ahead of this. They've got a show coming up in June, I think,
okay,
which is really exciting. And so we went and looked there, and I thought, well, let's take a few things from the Putnam, and we'll put them out here on the wall, and maybe we can get some stuff from the basement at the airport. We knew they had a few old models of the airport, and I thought, maybe then we could do a call for artists, so we could get some of the local art community to kind of, submit their work, or people who'd shown out here before. But when we went, and so we went in the basement, Dawn and I did, to see kind of what they had, and they've got a secure area down there where they keep different things that have been donated to them. It's sort of an archive of history of flying in the airport in this area. And we found down there on the table these 3 or 4 scrapbooks, and we opened them up, and this is one of them here, which belonged to a gentleman by the name of Pat Miller. Pat's actually a nickname. I think his first name is Beryl. And we were just like, wow, we could not even believe. You started looking through these things, and here's this guy, and for one thing, he's a daredevil. That's him on the bridge right here. He's always doing crazy stuff. He's upside down on motorcycles. He's hanging off of bridges, and you go, oh, that must be what it took to fly.
And these are from 1917.
This starts out, and the book actually probably starts a little before then, but the first real dated pictures that we know about him look like they're about 1917, which is when he gets, he goes over and he joins the Army, and he becomes part of what was the early Air Force, which is the 17th Flying Squadron.
Okay.
And he goes to what was then, and I don't know what it's called now, but it was then called Camp Kelly, which is down in San Antonio, which is interesting because my dad was in the Air Force, and when he did basic training, he was in the camp, whatever the Air Force base is down in San Antonio now. And so he joins the Air Force, and these pictures are kind of from that period of time. There's a picture in the camp. We could have done a whole show only on World War I.
Really?
Yeah, there's an amazing amount of pictures in these books. But we wanted to keep something focused on Moline and flying. So this is sort of our kind of paying our respect to him.
And
his
so
history.
Mr. Miller, he took a lot of photos that you see down here as well to the rest of the exhibit.
This whole show in the back case, basically the show in the back case is primarily photographs either taken out of scrapbooks, either by him or by a man whose name is Gabe Mosenfelder.
Mosenfelder,
and as you go further down, you see Gabe Mosenfelder come in. And the ironic thing there is, first off, Pat Miller taught Gabe Mosenfelder how to fly.
Oh, wow.
And Gabe Mosenfelder comes from a family that was in the clothing business for generations. And it happens to be the same buildings where Quad City Arts is in Rockland.
Are you serious?
Yeah, no, there's all
That's
these
wild.
Things that give you chills about this thing. So we saw these scrapbooks, Todd, and we thought, oh my God, we've got to. This is the story we need to go tell. So here he is. He goes over to World War I. There he's on the troop train. There's the trenches. I wanted to get some movement in the gallery, so I took some of the pictures that would be kind of romantic and then blew them up bigger. So we had something in each case to kind of hold it. And then here he is coming back. That's on a troop ship coming back in New York Harbor with the Statue of Liberty. There's New York Harbor, and this is probably about 18 or 19 when he's coming back. And then you go on, and this is still more Pat Miller pictures. This is when he's involved in early aviation, sort of flying circuses, teaching people how to fly. There he is upside down on a biplane wing.
And Miller is from the Quad Cities?
Well, he was, from what I can tell, he was maybe born in Des Moines, but he lived most of his life after World War I in the Quad Cities.
Okay.
In Moline or Montana, from what I can tell.
Yeah.
And so the cool thing about this is you start digging into this stuff, and ultimately it's an art project. I mean, that's really our mission here. But there's history there, and when you look through the pictures in these albums, you don't really know. You kind of have to, you make things up in your own mind, and that's the kind of thing we wanted to keep that spark going here. The Putnam is where history happens, and there's really cool stuff here that's all about history, but we wanted to keep it still sort of where your imagination could take over when you look at the pictures,
Yeah, no, I'm impressed with the photographic sensibility here that you brought to it, because it really shows. There was a lot of attention to detail with the reprints, because you had to scan these old photos.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, I took my time. I scanned them all, and then I worked to clean them up and balance them out, and then I also like photography, so I printed them all too.
Wow. Now, I was talking to Audrey and Randy, who I think helped you with some mounting.
Absolutely, they did a great job.
And is there an archival component to this at all?
Well,
or your inks, Randy was saying, are really top,
Yeah,
quality
our inks are all like archival inks. These are on high quality photo paper, and if anybody wants to buy these prints, they're all available for reprints for sale.
Okay.
And then we can print them either way. We can print them on, this is like high quality cellulose-based paper with like a photographic coating on it. But if you want the highest level of archival paper, then you got to pay a little bit more, and then but I can do either way.
Excellent.
So, and they've mounted these all with archival release, and so they're well done. So
and, and there they are right there. Audrey and Randy. So
these are like early air shows here. This is like there were these reliability tours that came through in the 20s to promote aviation.
Reliability tours.
That's what they called them, and they're kind of like the early versions of air shows, which is what's so kind of interesting about this. While these are up here, we've got the Quad City Airshow going on over across the river.
Right.
And so you can kind of see what an air show was like in the 20s, and then you can go to a real one here.
With F-15s and,
exactly.
And amazing things happening.
I actually read some more about the reliability tours last
did you?
night. And they were actually races, and they all started in one place, and it was like a 16-day race. So they went from here to here and here to here, and sometimes they stopped at 3 airports in one day.
Cool.
And they were graded on their performance of their engine, their speed. There was actually like a rating scale, and then whoever finished, it didn't matter exactly who finished first, but it was really reliability and efficiency of the different engines of the different airplanes.
Those are like the way to test.
Yeah.
Reminds me of the what's the one where they do the off-road Baja or whatever the vehicles, really. So
they did these over like I don't know, 7 or 8 years. They just kept doing them. They were doing and into the 30s.
So this is all here at the Moline Airfield.
As far as we know, it's either at the Moline Airfield. Some of them may be in Monmouth, but as far as I can tell, I think pretty much all these were in Moline. Which was called Franing Field at that
Franing
point.
Field,
Yeah.
yeah.
And then this is when Lindbergh came to visit, and these two pictures down here, the one with the Spirit of St. Louis, and then the bottom, the next one down, is Lindbergh with the 4 mayors of Moline, East Moline, Davenport, and Rock Island, and then the commander, the colonel from the Arsenal, I believe. But what we found in the scrapbooks is this picture on the top, which is when he taken from a biplane when he landed. And you can kind of see the crowd off on the right is the crowd down there. And if you see in the back, over the tail of the plane, there's a guy on a horse. And if you look up in that picture, you can't see it from back here, but there's guys on horses racing this way to see the plane.
Oh, interesting.
It's almost like the two pictures were taken from the same time, one on the ground and one up in the air. It's way,
That's very cool.
And you don't see that stuff when you look through the photo album. I don't anyway. But then when you scan it and then you start doing manipulating it and doing what you got to do to kind of make it big to hold up on the wall.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, these things come out at you, and you're like, "Oh my God!"
Yeah,
it's very cool.
Yeah, it's the process brings out the story.
It does. And that's his motorcade, kind of just relaxing on the side of the road. I've seen a picture of them standing in front of like a formal picture, but that's just sort of like a snapshot, which is really neat.
Yeah, versus the pose.
Yep.
This is another one of the books.
This is another book. This is actually a 4th book that was in the airport, which is the only place we found the picture of Amelia Earhart.
Oh, wow.
And that's actually when she visited the Quad City Airport, or at Moline at the time, and that's her in a hangar in Moline.
And there's the
that's the blow up.